Certain ships have earned the right to be known only by their name. HMS Victory, the Bismarck, and Titanic are all known by name alone. An argument can be made that the USS Midway should now be considered in the same vein. With a very specialized aircraft collection on a floating facility, you might be surprised what you'll find when you join me on Sinjin Smy's Museum Review, USS Midway. While looking ready for battle even now, the USS Midway presently sits permanently docked among tour and cruise boats in San Diego, California. This mighty ship of war is now a floating museum, classroom, and entertainment center. Originally conceived to be an air dominance platform, CVB or Aircraft Carrier Large, it would carry 40% more aircraft than the Essex-class carrier. The USS Midway was commissioned merely weeks after the formal Japanese surrender ending World War II. While not carrying the battle ribbons of her peers, it could be argued that the USS Midway has been the most historically significant carrier since the USS Enterprise of World War II. Although never engaging the enemy it was designed for, the USS Midway has a long and celebrated career. She has participated in combat, search and rescue, humanitarian relief, as a space exploration recovery platform, and many other still classified operations. While not having changed naval strategy like HMS Dreadnought, the Midway has distinguished herself in combat as having shot down the first and last MiGs of the Vietnam War, and serving as the flagship for all naval air forces during Operation Desert Storm. What makes this ship so unique is not the bombs her aircraft dropped or bogies they've shot down, but the role time and again she has had on major historical events. The Midway was the first carrier to operate in the Arctic.
A mechanical brush sweeps clear the flight deck for the plane takeoffs. The propellers are turned over for a flight over the Arctic ice cap.
The first to launch a ballistic missile from a ship. A captured German V-2 in September of 1947. First to prove nuclear capability of carrier air power. And the first carrier to ever become home ported in another country. Time and again, this weapon of destruction was used as a ship of mercy. During the 2 terrifying days of the fall of Saigon, the Midway's flight deck was used to land Air Force large helicopters to evacuate over 3,000 refugees during Operation Frequent Wind. When Mount Pinatubo erupted in the Philippines on June 15, 1991, the Midway's last mission was to evacuate civilian personnel of the obliterated Clark Air Force Base. If you are someone who watches documentaries about flight or warfare, you are almost going to see certain clips each time. The Midway is also historically significant for an event that is terribly sad, but will be shown continually throughout eternity. Typically, when Hollywood wants to show a plane being unsuccessful in landing on an aircraft carrier, they show the footage of Commander George Chamberlain Duncan attempting a landing on June 23, 1955. A sudden downdraft caused Duncan's Panther to slam into the stern of the ship, allowing him no time to make any corrections. Could it be that this and other memorable scenes might be a necessary evil for people to truly understand the cost and dangers of engaging in military operations? After being decommissioned in 1992, the Midway was put into the Navy Inactive Ship Maintenance Facility in Bremerton, Washington. In 2003, it was donated to a nonprofit to become a living museum in San Diego. Opening a little more than a year later, the USS Midway Museum is now one of Southern California's leading attractions and the world's most visited historical ship with 1.4 million visitors annually. Guided by a simple mission statement to preserve, inspire, educate, and entertain by becoming America's living symbol of freedom, the USS Midway Museum is able to bring many deeply emotional stories together in a unique way. When you come aboard, you are immediately captivated by the overwhelming irony that surrounds your entire visit. Repeatedly, you are amazed by the enormity of everything, and yet shocked by the surprisingly cramped reality for the men that were the lifeblood of the ship. Making your way through a passageway, you come to the first of your three main experiences, the hangar deck. In the hangar deck, you will find information kiosks, restrooms, the Battle of Midway Theater, the gift shop, audio tour pickup and drop-off, the cafe, the real brain center of the museum. You also have some incredible surprises. For the kids, or the kid at heart, numerous cockpit cutouts for taking your favorite Top Gun pose, full motion simulators, group dogfighting challenges, and even a number of deeply touching veteran talks throughout the hangar deck. But for us airplane nuts, some of the most beautifully restored World War II naval aircraft you will ever see. F-4U Corsair, TBM Avenger, Sinjin Texan, the Bird Dog, SBD Dauntless, F4F Wildcat. When you've had your fill of the hangar deck, you come to realize that your choice is up or down. Up to the flight deck, or down through the bowels of the ship. Up on the flight deck, you will find yourself beginning a wonderful journey. It is a journey through deck ops, the excitement and dangers of life on the flight deck. You're again hit with that disconcerting feeling about confusing big and small. These planes are huge, but this flight deck, 6 stories in the air, really isn't that big to land a plane. Pressing on, each aircraft is stacked generally as you would find them on an aircraft carrier. If the wings fold, then they're folded. Limited barriers and ropes, an awesome way to get up close and really appreciate some of the artistry and skill it took to design, manufacture, fly, and maintain these incredibly complex aircraft in such a hostile environment. As you proceed forward, you are welcomed along the way with life-size cardboard cutouts of the different people you would run across on your journey throughout active flight ops. The cutouts with differently colored shirts serve as guides to walk you through the dangerous ballet that is played on a working carrier deck. Purple gets fuel. Blue, they're your plane handlers. Green, launch and recovery. Yellow, aircraft handling on the deck. Red, ordnance. White, safety. And every pilot's best friend, the brown shirts, your plane captain, the real owner of the plane you're flying. In the middle of the 3-wire, you will find an oasis of knowledge in the first of 2 unbelievable veteran experiences on the flight deck. With a small TV running video of deck ops, an actual flight deck operator walks you through recovery of an aircraft on a U.S. carrier. The presentation is reinforced through hands-on displays of actual parts and tools of their trade. As you walk farther forward and reach Cat 2, the same kind of cabana-like atmosphere is set up, but now the presentation was on the launching of aircraft. Even if you understand the physics and math, it is still truly amazing that 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen can accelerate 28 tons of aircraft up to flight speed in less than 2 seconds within 400 feet. And those same molecules are used to stop that aircraft going 200 miles per hour in less than 600 feet. The aircraft along the flight deck range from early Cold War to recently retired aircraft. A-1 Sky Raider, C-1 Trader, E-2 Hawkeye, HH-64 Sea Knight, FJ-3 Fury, S-3 Viking, RA-5 Vigilante, SH-3 Sea King, F-9F Panther, A-6A Intruder, Sikorsky HO-3S, EKA-3 Sky Warrior, SH-2 Sea Sprite, F-8 Crusader, F-9F 8P Cougar, F-4 Phantom II, HUP Retriever, F-14 Tomcat, A-4 Skyhawk, H-34 Seabat, EA-6B Prowler, UH-1 Huey Gunship, F-18 Hornet, H-60 Seahawk. The aircraft have all been well maintained, something greatly appreciated knowing the harsh saltwater conditions the museum has had to contend with. The flight deck is a beautiful place to sit and relax, reflect, take that annoying selfie to put on Instagram because you're too cheap to buy the one they offer you when you start the tour, or just stop and appreciate how beautiful San Diego is. The bow gives you unobstructed views of downtown San Diego, North Island, and the gigantic cruise ship docked on the next pier. At this point, I made a horrible mistake. The line was long to go on the bridge tour, so I said I'll come back later and just forgot. Big dummy. Just means I have a perfect excuse to come back. Heading back down through the hangar deck, you find that the whole duality thing comes sneaking back up on you. As you head from this enormous hangar deck, you are quickly wedged into surprisingly small passageways and even small living areas. Just as those creepy feelings start to subside, you meet your first mannequin. The ones that look like those from the flight deck are almost comforting. The ones that look like they were recycled from Disneyland's mission to Mars are a little unnerving. These feelings subside quickly and you begin to put together a picture of daily life aboard the ship from multiple perspectives. It was surprising to see how little privacy there is for even officers aboard an aircraft carrier. Every daily requirement was industrialized. 150 40-pound laundry bags, 280,000 gallons of fresh water. If it was done on a large scale. While little 1970s, the animatronic captain does wrap up the importance of what you have experienced pretty well.
I understand you've seen a fair share of our floating city here. You know, we have over 4,500 sailors, chiefs, and officers aboard. It's my job to see that they're trained and ready to meet every mission we're called to do. On the USS Midway, the buck stops right here with me. At the end of the day, I'm responsible to the Admiral and ultimately our Commander-in-Chief for everything that takes place on this ship, under some of the most challenging conditions you can imagine. Being captain really comes down to motivating each of my sailors to do their jobs to the very best of their abilities. From engineering to communications, I have to mold thousands of individuals in the middle of the ocean into a single functioning team. I have to inspire them every day to rise above personal issues, like being away from their families for months at a time. If just one Midway sailor fails, we all fail.
And with that, you return to the hangar bay to visit the gift shop and grab a quick bite at the cafe. So how does the USS Midway Museum stack up to the brutal ranking scale known as Sinjin Smy's Museum Review? For logistics, 4 2/10 out of 5. Parking in the busy port area can be problematic on a normal weekday, but on weekends or if a cruise ship is docking, it can be nightmarish. Onboard facilities were really nice, and as long as you were not handicapped or have cardiovascular issues, you should be able to transit through the entire museum. It's really not possible to get lost. Bathrooms are plentiful and well maintained. Make sure to frequently hydrate at one of the numerous water stations. Do watch for high lips and low overhanging pipes. I'm only 6 foot and I even caught one on the mess deck. Static displays, 4.5 out of 5. I know this may sound ridiculous given we are discussing an aircraft carrier, but due to severe space limitations, there are only so many aircraft that can be displayed. This limitation is only amplified due to the required open areas for monetized public events. You have a great deal of space forward that would be awesome for an AV-8B Harrier, F-35B Lightning II, or an F-18G Growler to display. Uniqueness, 5 out of 5. I have been to ships and even an aircraft carrier museum before, but not one has put this level of care, devotion, and money into something this enormous. The ship is not only living history, but is now an integral part of the community. The people of San Diego and the leaders of the museum have truly made a world-class destination. User-friendliness, 4 out of 5. Very easy to negotiate the labyrinth that is below deck on an aircraft carrier as long as you can follow yellow arrows. If you do forego the audio headsets, reading information at some exhibits is limited. It would be interesting to see if you could start your experience in the bowels of the ship and crescendo on the flight deck. Public connections, 5 out of 5. One of the strengths of the museums is their personal connections between veteran docents and customers. They're not just military veterans, but veterans who did those jobs, and in many cases, actually assigned to the Midway. There were numerous docents located at their old duty stations, whether it be CIC, the boiler room, or the flight deck. No matter young or old, every customer had the opportunity to make a one-on-one connection to naval life aboard the USS Midway, and more importantly, a real living hero. Value, 4.25 out of 5. This was the hardest of all the grades to determine. The museum is truly a jewel, and although not willing to proclaim it the Mecca for aviationists, like Oshkosh, Duxford, and the Reno Air Races, you really can't consider yourself a plane nut unless you visited the USS Midway. The only drawback was the reality that you are in a resort location, so everything is resort level pricing. The entrance fee is a little high, parking can be $10 or more, and between pictures, simulator time, and a $9 turkey sandwich, a family of 5 has laid out over $150. So with a total score of 26 and 95/100ths, and the new leader on the summer board, it is the USS Midway Museum.
I hope you'll think about the extraordinary dedication of my crew as you continue your tour. They make Midway magic every day. Thanks for coming aboard.